make wall tile using the Z Tileforms. We're going to make a subway tile using our subway mold. We're going to make a pencil trim piece using the pencil mold. And last but not least, we're going to make a chair rail using our chair rail mold. We're going to show you a couple different techniques on pouring to give you ideas on what you can do. We're going to start with 10 pounds of our white countertop mix that has been pre-weighed, a clean mixing bucket, and some clean water. Since this will be a highly flowable mix, we are going to start with 20 fluid ounces of water in the bucket. This will give us the same consistency as the normal 3 quarts of water with the full 50-pound bag. Slowly add in the concrete as you're mixing. Because of its extreme high strength and flowable properties, we highly recommend using our white countertop mix for cast and concrete tile. The reason we only start with 10 pounds is so the concrete does not begin to set in the bucket. On a larger scale pour, you may want to mix more at once, but you will want to make sure you have enough tile forms and helping hands to distribute the concrete quick enough. Coverages for the white countertop mix and the tile forms are listed on our website. Here you can see the consistency similar to what we use for cast and concrete countertops. However, for tile forms we want something more flowable. From here we are slowly adding water to taste. Remember, a little water goes a long way, so a splash at a time is all you need. This looks about right. The consistency you opt for can vary depending on your preference. We find the more flowable mix is slightly easier to control and will level off better. You want to avoid overwatering, which could lead to a separation and a weaker final product. As a rule of thumb, do not make your mix any wetter than what you see here, and you will be fine. Carefully pour the concrete into the tile forms. Let it slowly spread out and fill the form so that the mix pushes all the air out. This will leave you with a smooth, glossy surface free of any trapped air or pinholes when you demold the tile. Between tile form trays, you may notice the concrete starting to settle and set up in the pouring container. If you experience this, it is a good idea to transfer the contents from your pouring container back into the mixing bucket and blend all of the concrete by hand to redistribute the aggregate. No more water will need to be added at this time. There, back to a smooth flowable mix. Now for the pencil tile. Again, carefully pour the concrete into the tile form trays. It is a good idea to start at one end and slowly work to the other to allow the concrete to push the air out of the mold. If you overfill or underfill the molds, that's okay. You can always go back and add more concrete or clean up any excess that has overflowed. Before pouring the chair rails, we are again going to remix the concrete to make sure we have a smooth, flowable mix. Filling the chair rail mold should be done in the same fashion as the pencil tile. For the last 3, we are only going to fill the deepest bullnose portion of the mold. This will result in a large pencil tile, allowing us to create 4 unique tile shapes from our 3 tile molds. Here, we are going to show you a technique to create a slightly textured tile. We are using the Z release because it will not affect the concrete. Spray a moderate amount into the tile form mold. The trick here is to pour the concrete into the mold while the release is still wet and has not had proper time to air dry. Later, when we demold the tile, you will see the slight dimpled texture which adds a unique design characteristic to the tile. Don't forget to top off your tiles if you have some that are not quite full. Now we will let these sit for 24 hours until we are ready to demold them. The next technique we are going to show you is one we call the two-tone dry pack. We are starting with roughly 1 tablespoon or 5 grams of charcoal pigment in 10 pounds of concrete, but you can use any color and adjust the amounts to suit your preference. Here we start with just 10 ounces of water because we want to make a super dry mix. You always want to blend the water and your color before adding the concrete. Slowly add in the concrete while mixing. You can see 10 ounces was not quite enough, but it is closer than you might think. We are going to add some more water, 1 splash at a time, until desired consistency is achieved. With that last splash, the mix got too wet. We are looking for a crumbly mixture with little to no flow. To get there, we'll broadcast some more concrete into the mix. Still a bit wet, so we add a little more concrete. There is no right or wrong consistency here, but since we want to intentionally create large voids in the surface of the tile, we want a super dry mix. That looks about right. Notice how the concrete barely flows or settles in the bucket. This is the crumbly consistency we are looking for. To place the concrete, crumble off little pieces into the Tileform mold. The smaller the pieces and the drier the mix, the more voids we should get. Here we use the margin trowel to press the concrete into the mold and make sure it is flush with the top of the Tileform tray. We are going to repeat these same steps into all 3 of our Tileform molds. Now we are going to make a flowable backer mix. This time we are starting with 10 grams of our charcoal terratin pigment and 20 fluid ounces of water. Adding twice the amount of pigment will give us a slightly darker color that will be visible on the surface of the tile. Now we slowly add in 10 pounds of white countertop mix and some additional splashes of water until the desired flowable consistency is achieved. That should do it. We will transfer the concrete into our pouring container and we are ready to go. Now we are going to fill the remainder of the molds up with our darker and more flowable backer mix. Since there is already concrete in the forms, you may notice it is a bit harder to control the concrete and you will have a few more spills or spots you cannot quite get concrete into. Not a problem though. We will use a margin trowel to level off the concrete and push it around to make sure all of the molds are filled to the top. This final step is an optional one to help limit the amount of cleanup that will be needed later. Once the concrete has set enough, you can use a steel finishing trowel to scrape away the excess concrete on top of the molds. Make sure you take caution not to dig into the tiles. So it's 24 hours after we poured the tile. You'll see how from the bottom side what they look like. They're very simple to take out. When you are popping them out, you're going to want to watch you don't damage the form because they are reusable. You see when they pop out, the shine on them, it actually looks like a piece of glazed tile. And they're going to come out really easy. Just push up on the bottom of the form and pull them out. Keep in mind these trays are reusable, so you want to be fairly gentle with them when you're taking them out. When we poured these tiles, we sprayed release in this tray, and we poured our concrete right on top of the wet release. That's going to give you a totally different look with the tile when you pop them out. You're going to see there's little pinholes in it, and it's not as glossy, so we'll give you a different type of tile. When you grout that, the holes will fill up with your grout, and it's a really interesting look. Taking the pencil tiles out is a little bit different. I like to turn it upside down, kind of grab it and push from both ends at the same time to loosen it up. Every once in a while you will get a broken one, but again, you can see how nice these pop out, perfectly glazed. Taking the chair rails out is pretty much the same as taking the pencils out. And if you remember when we filled these yesterday, 3 of the chair rails we filled right to the top, and 3 of them we only filled up to the first level. What that's going to do is give us a different size pencil. So from this one mold, we're actually creating 2 separate tiles. See when we pop these out. Alright, so here we have a pencil created from the chair rail mold, and this is a pencil from our pencil mold. And you'll see the difference in the size. And this is your standard chair rail out of the form. If you overfill your forms, you're going to see you're going to get a little lip of concrete up here. We could simply just break off, then take your gem pad and sand it smooth. All these tiles were created using our white countertop mix. You can see the back side is a little bit whiter than the front right now because we just popped them out of the molds. These will continue to whiten up, probably for another 24 hours. However, if you want them even whiter than this, you could use our white color pack in our countertop mix, and it'll even create a whiter looking tile. Now we're going to demold dry pack tiles that we made. Sometimes you have to be a little more careful with these because they do have more pores in them. Alright, it's making a liar out of me because these are popping out really easy. Sometimes they are a little harder to come out. If you remember, we used 2 different color concretes in this, and you can see the lighter and then you can see the darker mix. The darker mix in here was the liquidy concrete that we poured over the light mix that we pressed in, and you can see the pattern that it creates. It almost looks like a natural stone. Again, we'll have to chip these off and just sand these edges. We'll demold our pencils. They popped out pretty easy. Again, you'll see the look that we're achieving here with the dry mix. Keep in mind, all these holes are going to fill in when we grout it, so we're actually going to get a 3rd color. Okay, we'll demold our chair rail. Hopefully I have good luck taking these out. Six for 6, not bad. These are beautiful. To clean our trays, we use a solution of 3 parts water to 1 part muriatic acid. Spray it on the form, let it sit for a minute or 2, and then with a chip brush works really nice to just kind of wipe them gently. That way you're not going to scratch the inside of the tray. It just loosens everything right up and rinse them out. You want to make sure you rinse them well before you reuse these. Before installing the tile, we want to put a sealer on it. We're using our Cyacryl 14, just a little bit in container, and with a clean cloth, we're just wiping each tile with the Cyacryl. Usually 1 or 2 coats is fine. The reason why we put the sealer on is so the grout doesn't stick on the tile later when we're grouting it. You will notice when the Cyacryl is put on, it's a little bit duller than it was. So once this tile is installed, what we'll do to get that gloss back is to apply a coat of our counter shine over the tile. I have a few sample boards that we made up to give you some examples of what you could do. These tiles, before we applied them, we coated them with our Cyacryl 14 to seal them. You can see that they took some of the shine off. So now to get that shine back, if you want the shine back, we're going to apply some counter shine just with a cloth. All you have to do is wipe it on, go over the entire surface, and it'll bring back that shine. They're going to be a lot glossier. Simple as putting it on like that, wipe it on, let it dry. Now that the Z counter shine is dried, you can see what you get using our white countertop mix with the Z counter shine. Pretty much looks like a glazed tile. This is just one of the patterns we came up with to give you some ideas. You could create your own patterns. I mean, there's many patterns you could come up with. Here's an example of our white countertop mix. We used the Z release in the forms and applied the white mix into the form while the release was still wet. This was the look you get. You can see all the little pinholes, and you can see what it looks like once they're grouted. Here we use our chair rail, just the subway tile. These pieces here are our pencils, and then we use the subway tile in a vertical position. Here's a sample of our two-tone dry pack. You can see up here we used our chair rail and then a pencil, the subway tile in a herringbone pattern, another chair rail, a pencil, and a vertical. This would be a great pattern for a wall where you have more surface to cover. You'll see that we did not put our counter shine on here. We just sealed this with the Cyacryl 14. We feel it gives it a more natural stone effect, which we were trying to create here. Here's another sample of our dry pack. On this sample board, we used the same color for both the dry mix and the liquidy wet mix. The second color is created by the grout because the grout is filling the holes in the tile. So again, it's another option that you could do. This is another pattern we came up with, but what we did was we poured 3 separate batches of concrete. So you can see we have basically 3 different colors here. We got that look by adding different amounts of pigment to our white mix. Created this look. Our last design today was created using some standard glass tile. We cut strips off of it and applied it inside of our tile. You can see the tiles here on the corners were cut, which could just be cut with a standard wet saw. It's the easiest way to cut these. These tiles were also created with our solution of muriatic acid and water. We mix a solution of 3 parts water and 1 part muriatic acid, spray it over the tile, leave it on for about 30 seconds and rinse it off. It totally deglosses the tile, and you can see it gives it a very natural look. It looks like slate. These are just a few examples of what can be created using our 3 tile forms. I can't wait to see what creative designs our customers are going to come up with.